Good afternoon. I'm Kirsten Murphy. I'm the Executive Director for the Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council, and I'm here today to review the agenda for our quarterly meeting on March 25th, 2021. Our meeting time will begin at 10. The Zoom conference room will be open a half an hour before that if members want to spend some time chatting with each other. So we will have the Zoom room open at 9:30, and our meeting will begin promptly at 10 o'clock. Our first agenda item is our usual business to begin meetings. We'll have an icebreaker, probably ask you to introduce yourself and name something you're looking forward to doing now that the weather has warmed up. Then we'll review guidelines for having a Zoom meeting, remind everyone to use their mute function when they're not talking, assign our roles like the jargon buster and the processor, and then we will ask you to adopt the minutes from our December meeting. Those minutes were in your meeting packet, and there is a recorded version of them on our website where Chelsea reads the minutes. Then we are going to begin the business of reviewing for the rest of the morning the draft goals and objectives that our planning teams have come up with for our 5-year state plan. We need to be able to vote on those draft goals and objectives on Thursday the 25th so that we can put them out for a 40-day public comment period where friends and colleagues at organizations like Green Mountain Self-Advocates, as well as the general public, will be invited to give us some feedback about whether they think we're working on the right projects. We're going to break down that process the same way we have been doing by going through Goal Area 1, Goal Area 2, and Goal Area 3. Each of those goal areas have a planning team that our public members of the council have been assigned to. So we will begin at 10:30 talking about Goal Area 1 and the work of Team 1 that focuses on gaps in our service systems. Folks from Team 1 will present their draft of a goal statement and then 3 or 4 mini goals that we call objectives underneath that overarching goal. Then they will take questions from council members, and we will discipline ourselves to stop right after a 30-minute time period. At 11, Team 2 is up. They will present their goal statement and their 3 or 4 objectives, and then take some questions. Then at 11:30, Team 3 will come up, and they will present a systems change goal statement and 3 or 4 objectives. We will then review with everyone again what it is that they are voting on, and we will put forward the motion to adopt the goals and objectives that have been presented by the DD Council's 3 planning teams as the final draft for public comment for it's 45-day period from April 1st through May 15th, 2021. If any council member wishes to, during this morning conversation, to suggest a wording change or some other modification to the goals and objectives, you certainly are welcome to do that. We hope that we've had a process in place where everyone has had an opportunity many times over the last few months to weigh in on what they would like those goals and objectives to look like. So hopefully we won't have to make too many modifications during our meeting, but we'll see how it goes. Then you will have earned an hour break for lunch. Oh, I spoke too soon. Lunch is only 45 minutes. You can use that 45 minutes to take a break. We strongly encourage you to do that because Zoom can be very, very tiring. It's also an opportunity if you have any questions or want to chat with our chair, Courtney, or myself, we'll be available on the Zoom, in the Zoom room, if you will. At 1 o'clock, we are then going to hear from our policy committee, and we're going to be discussing a particular bill, H210, that has been moving through the legislature. The reason we're talking about that is that the policy committee would like you to add support for H210 to our legislative platform, to that small number of statements and bills that the council is making a high priority for this legislative session. H210 is a bill that would create an Office of Health Equity to address the health differences, we call them disparities, the health disparities that are experienced by people with disabilities. What that means is people with disabilities don't have the same opportunities to be as healthy and well as people without disabilities. We have long done work on this issue, and the state is now considering, the legislature is considering creating an office within state government to tackle that very serious problem. In your meeting packet, you have a little bit of information, and I will also be doing a short presentation to explain to everybody in a little bit more detail what health disparity means and what we're talking about when we say that Vermonters with disabilities aren't as healthy as Vermonters who don't have disabilities. I am going to take a minute to read you the motion and the background that's in your meeting packet so that you have full access to it. So what I'm looking at now is this particular document. It's just one page, and I'm going to read that now into the camera. This is the proposed addition to the DD Council's legislative platform, and we think someone from the policy committee will make a motion to add the following item to the Developmental Disabilities Council's 2021 legislative platform. Vermont must eliminate health disparities based on race, ethnicity, disability, income, and LGBTQIA status. The creation of a health equity office within state government is an important first step. That's the statement we'd like to add to the platform, and so we will have a motion made to add that statement. Then this document that's in your meeting packet goes on to give you a little bit more background, and I'm going to read that part now. The problem that we're trying to solve. Vermont is one of the healthiest states in the nation. Unfortunately, not everybody in Vermont has the same opportunities to be healthy. For example, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, or people of color Vermonters have higher rates of diabetes, obesity, and asthma than white Vermonters. When a difference in health is based on a historical injustice like racism, we call it a health disparity. Vermonters who have disabilities face many health disparities. For example, 9 out of 10 Vermonters with a disability have a chronic illness like heart disease or diabetes. Most, 65% of people with disabilities, have 2 or more chronic conditions. Vermonters without disabilities have much lower rates of these diseases. Experts believe that there are many reasons that people with disabilities are not as healthy, including these facts. 1, people with disabilities are more likely to be poor and unemployed or underemployed. 2, people with disabilities have a harder time getting to doctor's appointments. They often don't have access to transportation. 3, doctors and other health providers are not trained to work with people who have disabilities, and they may have difficulty communicating with someone with a disability. That's not a complete list, but those are some of the things that contribute to the health disparities that I'm talking about. The solution. A bill called H210 would create a new Office of Health Equity. This office would work with community leaders to address the many reasons why certain groups, including people with disabilities, are not as healthy. This office would focus on how prejudices like racism and ableism have a negative impact on the health of these groups. So that is what the document says, and that will be something that we talk about right after our lunch break. At 1:45, we are going to turn to a report by our membership committee. As you may recall, March is the meeting where we sometimes change officers and sometimes add new members to the council. So that membership committee has been doing some work and will tell you about what they are proposing. I believe they have at least one candidate that they're going to suggest we put forward to the governor's office with a recommendation that that person join the council. A couple other things are going to happen during this part of the meeting. Number one, we're going to be electing our vice chair. Mike Grudeke has been our vice chair for 2 years. Every 2 years, the council has an opportunity to vote anew on who they would like to have as vice chair. Mike has kindly said he will stand again, and Kaya has put her name forward also as somebody who might like to be vice chair. So you'll have a chance to vote electronically through something, a Zoom will pop up and give you an opportunity to vote either for Mike or for Kaya as our vice chair. Another thing that we're going to do very briefly at that part of the meeting is I'm going to read a few statements that we would like to send to some of our departing members. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kirsten Murphy, Executive Director for the Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council, and I'm here today to talk with you about the agenda for our March 25th quarterly meeting, which will be held via Zoom. If you're looking for the link, it should be on our webpage, or you can always call our office at 802-828-1312. Our agenda begins at 10 in the morning, though we will open the Zoom room up at 9:30, so if our members want to have an opportunity to chat with each other informally, they have a half an hour to do that. At 10, we'll begin promptly with our usual opening business. We'll welcome everyone, have a icebreaker, an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, and maybe think we're going to ask you to tell us something you're looking forward to doing now that the weather is warmer. Well, we hope the weather's warmer next week. We'll review some guidelines for using Zoom. Most importantly, asking that if you are comfortable with it, we would prefer you use your camera if your technology allows it so we can see you. And we'll also remind you how important it is to use the mute button when you're not speaking, since that prevents background noise from disrupting the meeting. We'll assign roles like the jargon buster and the meeting processor. And then we will ask you to vote to adopt the minutes from our December meeting. Those minutes were in your meeting packet, and there's also a recording of them being read on our website. And a good thing to do as you get ready for the meeting is to review the minutes from the last meeting. Starting at 10:30, we're going to do some pretty heavy lifting. We'll be working on the most important business of this meeting, and that is reviewing the draft goals and objectives for our next 5-year state plan, which you all, at least the public members, have been working very hard on. We are going to do this in the same way as we have been organizing the planning process. We are going to break the 5-year plan down into 3 goal areas, goal 1, 2, and 3, and then each planning team, will come forward and they will present their goal area with a goal statement, 1 sentence that explains a broad goal that we hope to accomplish in 5 years, and then 3 or 4 mini goals, if you will, underneath that, which we call those objectives. At 10:30, goal area 1 will state their draft goal to address gaps in our service systems and 3 or 4 objectives toward that goal. And you will have an opportunity to ask questions. After half an hour, we will turn to Team 2, and they will present their goal statement and objectives that have to do with empowering self-advocates and family members. And then at 11:30, we will hear from Planning Team 3, which will provide us with a draft goal for systems change and 3 or 4 objectives that support that goal. At 12 o'clock, we are then presumably going to be pretty familiar with the draft 5-year plan, and I'm going to read the motion that someone will make, and you will have an opportunity then to vote on it. The motion says to adopt the goals and objectives that have been presented by the DD Council's 3 planning teams as the final draft for public comment for the 45-day period from April 1st through May 15th of 2021. So what's going to happen is we post the goals and objectives that we agree on, and then our partners at places like Green Mountain Self-Advocates and Vermont Family Network have the opportunity to let us know if they think we're on the right track and setting the right priorities for our next 5 years. So we get some feedback from the public, and that is an invitation that's standing for 45 days, and then when we meet in June, we will have taken in all that feedback, assuming there is some, I think there probably will be, and make adjustments to the plan in light of what people have told us. And then that will be our final plan, which has to be filed with our federal partners in the middle of August, so late summer. After we take that vote, you will have earned your lunch break. So you will have a 45-minute lunch break. We hope that you'll feel free to get away from your computer for a little bit of time, because it can be very fatiguing, very tiring to stare at a computer screen. However, we will leave the Zoom room open if you have questions or need to have a conversation with our chair, Courtney, with our vice chair, Mike, with myself, or with other staff. At 1 o'clock, we will come back together, and we will have a report from our policy committee. Our policy committee, which has been very active because the legislature is in session, will give you some updates about our platform items, those 4 things that are the highest priority for the work we're doing at the legislature this session. And then we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the issue of health disparities. I'm going to explain that in a minute. And then vote about whether to add another 5th issue to our platform. So you're going to get a little explanation at the meeting, but there is some background information in your meeting packet as well. It looks like this document here, 1 page, no pictures. And I am going to read this document to you just for accessibility purposes so that everyone knows what it says. So, this is a proposed addition to the DD Council's legislative platform. The motion will be as follows. To add the following item to the Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council's 2021 legislative platform. Vermont must eliminate health disparities based on race, ethnicity, disability, income, and LGBTQIA status. The creation of a health equity office within state government is an important first step. That's the motion. Now this handout in your packet has some background information that I'm going to read now. First, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? Vermont is one of the healthiest states in the country. Unfortunately, not everybody in Vermont has the same opportunities to be healthy. For example, BIPOC Vermonters that is Vermonters who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, have higher rates of diabetes, obesity, and asthma than white Vermonters. When a difference in health is based on a historical injustice like racism, we call it a health disparity. Vermonters who have disabilities face many health disparities. For example, 9 out of 10 Vermonters, 90%, with a disability have a chronic illness like heart disease or diabetes. Most, 65%, have 2 or more of these conditions. Vermonters without disabilities have much lower rates of these diseases. Experts believe that there are many reasons that people with disabilities are not as healthy, including these facts. People with disabilities are more likely to be poor and unemployed. And we know that poverty and lack of employment are associated with poor health. Another fact, people with disabilities have a harder time getting to doctor's appointments. They don't have easy access to transportation often. A third fact, doctors and other health providers are not trained to work with people who have disabilities. They may have difficulty communicating with someone with a disability. Communication is a very important part of a successful encounter with, meeting with a health provider. The doctor has to be able to ask you questions about your health and your behavior, things that you do, and you need to understand their advice. And sometimes those conversations are made more difficult because health providers are not used to the kinds of accommodations that help people with disabilities feel fully included. The solution. A bill called H210 would create a new Office of Health Equity. This office would work with community leaders to address the many reasons why certain groups, including people with disabilities, are not as healthy. This office would focus on how prejudices like racism and ableism have a negative impact on the health of these groups. So that is the background for the proposed addition to our legislative platform. At 1:45, we will turn to something new on the agenda, the membership committee. That committee only meets usually around this time of year. They've been doing some recruiting, and they will report to us and probably have at least one proposed new member that they would like you to vote on, whether we recommend that person to the governor's office for appointment to the council. A couple of other things that we're going to do at this part of the meeting. We have an election to hold every 2 years. We hold an election for our vice chair, who acts as backup to our chair. Mike Grudica has had that job for 2 years, and Mike has kindly said that he would do it again if selected. And Kaya Andrews has also said that she is interested in being the vice president. So Kaya and Mike will be the two choices, and you'll have an opportunity to hear from them. They'll just each make a little statement, and then you'll vote on which one you would like to have as your vice chair. And then the other thing I would like to do at that part of the meeting is share a few statements with you that I would like us as a council to send to some of our, or give to some of our departing members. And I'll tell you more about those details, not on this video, but when we're at the meeting. It'll be a short part of the meeting. At 2:15, we open up the floor for public comment. I know of at least 2 members of the public who are planning to attend. 3, actually. I know of at least 3 guests we'll be having at our meeting. And those visitors are welcome to speak at public comment. And at 2:25, then our meeting processor will share his or her impressions of how the meeting went and if there's anything they might suggest that we could do better next time. Certainly we're all getting used to using this Zoom platform, and we'll probably be using it again in June at our next meeting. At 2:30, we will adjourn, and you will have done some great work. Take a big sigh and let out a deep breath, because you have done your part of the 5-year state plan, or at least the bulk of that work, and it will be out there for public comment. It still needs to be finalized, but congratulations, you will have done the main part of the planning and priority setting for the next 5 years. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, something you want to talk about before we get to our meeting, you are always welcome to call our chair or email our chair, Courtney, our vice chair, Mike, or myself, and you can reach me, of course, at our office. I'm still using the office because I'm alone there. Our staff are working from home, and that would be at 828-1312. And with that, I will say goodbye. Have a great day, and I will see you soon at our full council meeting on March 25th.